Hello everybody. Welcome to our course. We will continue with the area of intervention in ecology. We saw last session, and we talked about the ecology deals with different levels of perception of living organism. We have the first item, which is individual. Individual refers to a single distinct entity or organism, often used to describe a member of a species. So in the context of ecology or biology, an individual refers to a single living organism. It can be a plant, it can be an animal, or a microorganism. So each individual within a species is unique and has its own, of course, characteristics. So the individuals of the same species share common trait and are capable of reproducing to maintain the population. And of course, the study of this section or individuals and their interaction in fundamental aspect of ecology and biological research. So the second term is the auto-ecology. So the auto-ecology here is a division of ecology that focus on the study of individual species and their interaction with the environment, including their behavior, physiology, life history or life traits, and their adaptation to a specific ecological condition. So the auto-ecology examine how organisms respond to the environmental factors such as temperature, humidity, the sunlight, food availability, and how these responses influence their distribution, their abundance, and their survival. So the autoecology provides insight into the ecological requirements and niches of species, as well as its role within the ecosystem. The third term here is demoecology. So, sorry, demoecology is the study of population and their interaction with the ecosystem. So this branch of demoecology focus on the dynamic of population, including factors that, such as population size, their density, their distribution, their growth rate, and interaction with the other species, of course, such as we have like competition, like predation, and mutualism. All these terms we will see further in our course. So it's important to know that the demoecology plays a crucial role in understanding the structure and functioning of the ecological communities and how these factors respond to the environmental change. The next word is Xenoecology. So xenoecology here is a branch of ecology that focus on the study of ecological communities, including the interaction between the different species within those communities and their relationship with the environment. So it examine the composition, the structure, and the dynamics, the functioning also of the ecological communities at various spatial and temporal scales. So synecology here consider factors such as species interaction, so for example competition, predation, mutualism, etc. Community succession, diversity patterns, and ecosystem process. So by understanding the principle of synecology, we can gain insights into the organization and the functioning of the ecosystem as a complex ecosystem, because it is complex and comprised of multiple interacting species. We have also global ecology. So global ecology here is a division of ecology that focus on the study of ecological patterns and process at a global scale. So it is processing at a global scale. The global ecology examine how organisms, population, communities, and ecosystem interact and function across different regions and continents. So it is about a large scale or global scale. So it considers factors such as climate change, biogeography, biodiversity patterns, ecosystem services, human impact on the environment, etc. So we can see here that it seeks to understand the interdisciplinary approaches and collaboration among scientists from various fields to address complex environmental change on a global scale or planetary scale. In this slide, we can say that in ecology there is a classification, as we can see here, or hierarchical organization of the different biological system present in our nature. So this hierarchical system allows the study of the living organisms to focus directly on a single level of organization. So it means that we can begin from the molecules that are assemblies of at least two atoms, whether identical atoms or different atoms, and are linked by chemical bonds. The second level is the cells. So the cells here are fundamental structure and functional unit of all the living organisms. So the cell has the living property to reproduce, to divide, etc. So it consists of a membrane, a cytoplasm, and a nucleus containing genetic information. The next level is tissues. So there are sets of cells of the same type that have the same function. So the tissues here are set of cells of the same type that have the same function. Next to the next level, which is the organs. The organ here consists of one or more cellular tissues, so it has one or more function. Not the same function like the tissues. The next level is the individuals. An individual refers to a single, a distinct entity or an organism which is often used to describe a member of a species. The next level here we have the population. So the population is a group of individuals of the same living species in a given location over a considerable period of time. The next term is community. Community here is the collection of living organisms of different species. So these species are living in a given location with relationship, of course, between them. In the last scale, we have the ecosystem, which are the relationship that exists between all the living being, which represent the bionosis, and their environment, which is the biotop, as we saw in the last session. So here, sorry, in summary, we can say that this one organism is an individual. So as you see here in this picture, this is an individual. It represents one organism. So multiple individuals, they form together a population. A population is, of course, a group of individuals of the same species. So they are same species. Two or several different species refers to the community. So here is a community. A community is all the populations of different species that inhabit a particular area and interact with one another. So this forms a community. So it compasses, the community here compasses the living organism within a defined habitat or ecosystem and their various interactions. So they have interactions between them, of course. And finally, a group of ecological communities existing in a large geographical area, they form an ecosystem. So I hope that you understood well the difference between these area of intervention in ecology, because it is very important to distinguish the difference between individual, autoecology, demoecology, and synecology. it is also important to have the difference between individual, a population, a community, and an ecosystem. So here we are passing to chapter 2. So in chapter 1 we have seen many terms and definition to introduce our module, that is the general ecology, and here in this second chapter we will see the ecological factors and their influence on the living organisms. So we will begin with concepts of ecological factor. So these factors include both abiotic and biotic components. So abiotic, as we saw in the last session, refers to the non-living organisms, and biotic refers to the living organisms. So these factors include both the biotic and abiotic component of the environment, such as the temperature, water availability, the soil composition, sun or light intensity, and specific interactions between the species. So the influence of ecological factors on the living organisms can be very deep and profound, affecting their physiological process, their reproduction, their migration patterns, and of course overall their survivals. So understanding how organisms respond to and interact with their environment is fundamental to ecological research and conservation efforts. So ecological factors here mean the impact of the metabolism of the individuals within their ecosystem. So the metabolism here refers to the quantity of biochemical process that occur within an organism to stay alive. So, of course, various ecological factors such as temperature, humidity, light availability, and nutrient availability can directly influence the metabolic rate in the organism. For example, here we have the temperature. If we take temperature as an example, we know that this factor plays a critical role in determining the metabolic rate as it affects the enzyme activity and the other biochemical reaction within the organism or the cells. So organisms often have specific temperature range within which their metabolic process operate normally. So the deviation from this optimal temperature can lead to change in the metabolic rate of the organism, and it could affect energy expenditure, growth rate, and other physiological function. So similarly, we talked about the temperature, The water also, water availability can affect metabolism by influencing the hydration level and the osmotic balance within the organism. For example, in arid environment, organism may exhibit adaptation to conserve water and maintain the metabolic function during periods where water is scarce or where water is not very available. I can mention the same example on light intensity. We all know that light intensity also play a role in regulating metabolic process, particularly in the photosynthetic organisms, so like the plants and the algae. The light availability monitor the rate of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, which is a key metabolic process for producing energy and rich molecules such as the glucose, for example. So the action of ecological factor can affect on the, for example, on the diapause. The diapause is a physiological state of dormancy that certain organisms enter in response to environmental conditions. So when the environmental conditions are not very good, such as change in temperature, photoperiod, or availability of resource. So the diapause here is typically observed in insects, but can also occur in other organisms such as the plants, the crustacea, and the mammals. We have also the hibernation. So the hibernation here is a state of prolonged dormancy and the reduction of metabolism. So it is like the diapause. So here the reduction of metabolic activity that certain animals enter in response to cold temperature and limited food availability during the winter months. So it is an adaptation that allows animals to conserve their energy and survive at these harsh environmental conditions. During the hibernation, an animal could have a metabolic rate decrease significantly and its body temperature drops to ambient level. So the heart rate, the breathing rate, and other physiological functions also slow down. So the animals in the hibernation typically retreat to sheltered locations such as the tunnels. Tunnels here are the holes in the soil, or they could also go to the trees where they remain in a state of torpor for extended period. So torpor here, the word torpor means a state of reduced physiological activity and metabolic rate that some animals could have as a temporary response to unfavorable environmental conditions like the cold, like the lack of food, or in drought when the water is not available. Sorry. So the hibernation is commonly observed in mammals, as we can see here in the pictures. Also bears. Bears also do the hibernation strategy. We have also some reptiles, some amphibians, and even certain birds could go to the hibernation stage. So the duration of the hibernation can vary depending on the species. And also the environmental condition, of course. Some animals may hibernate for several months, while other could do the hibernation shortly, in shorter periods of dormancy. Yes, so this is all about the hibernation stage. We have also estivation. So the estivation here is a state of dormancy also, where the metabolic activities are also reduced. So certain animals enter in response to hot and dry conditions. So this refers to the estivation stage, typically during the summer months, of course. So similar to hibernation and diapause, the estivation allow the animals to conserve energy and survive through long periods of environmental stress, such as high temperature and drought. So this state of dormancy help the animal to minimize water loss and avoid the negative effect of dehydration and heat stress, of course. We can give some examples on the estivation. The estivation is commonly observed in a variety of animals, including amphibians, reptiles. We have also snails, and even some mammals. They do the estivation period. So, for example, in the desert, many species may estivate in underground to avoid extreme temperature and water scarcity, while some species, like frogs, may bury themselves into the water, soil of water, and enter estivation during these dry periods. We have also another concept of ecological factors, which is photoperiodic reactions. So photoperiodic reaction here refers to the physiological response in organisms that are actively change in the duration of daylight and darkness. So it is known as the photoperiod. So photoperiodic reaction here is the same as photoperiod. So many organisms, particularly those in temperate and polar region rely on photoperiodic to regulate seasonal activities such as their reproduction, also their migration and their dormancy. And we have the biological clock. In French, we call it l'heure biologique. So the biological clock here refers to an internal timing mechanism found in organisms that regulate various physiological process and behavior in a rhythmic manner over a 24 hours period. So these processes include sleep and wake cycles, the sleep and the wake cycles. It includes also the hormone secretion, the metabolism, and also the their activity levels. So the biological clock is synchronized with the external environmental signs such as the light and the darkness. So we have the light and we have the darkness time to ensure the biological activities that are properly timed to the external day and the night cycle. So most organisms, light of course serve as the primary sign for synchronizing the biological clock. So with specialized cells and the body detecting change in the light intensity and transmitting these information into the brain of the animal. So in this next slide we are talking about the population density. So what is the population density? It is a measure of the number of organisms of a species per unit area of a volume of the habitat. So it provides valuable information about the concentration of individuals within a given area and is an essential parameter for understanding population dynamics and ecological process. So the population density here, it allows to assess the capacity of a habitat to support a given species and to monitor change in population size over the time. So we can say that if we have high population density, so this may lead to competition for resources such as food and water and shelter, which can affect the individual ability and reproductive success. On the other hand, if we have low population densities, this may indicate limited habitat availability or environmental conditions that are less favorable for the species. So, if we could understand that the population density is influenced by various factors. It includes it include include it is including with a birth rate, which is fecundity here. So fecundity It refers to the birth rate. For example, the number of individuals born per year. We will monitor the number of the individuals that are born per year. We have also the fertility. Fertility here is the natural ability to conceive a descendant. We have also the factor that is mortality. We can also say death rate. So here is the mortality represent the number of deaths that occur within a population over a specific period of a time. So typically it expresses as the number of deaths per unit of population size or per unit of time. So the death rate here are influenced by variety of factors including age structure, disease prevalence. We have also environmental condition, the predation, competition for resource, and of course the human impact such as the habitat destruction or the pollution. Next we have development cycles. So the development cycles here represent the series of distinct stages of or phases that an organism go through from birth to the germination to the reproductive maturity and eventually the death. So the duration and timing of each stage can vary depending on, of course, the factors such as species traits, the environmental conditions, and the ecological interactions. For example, if we can cite an example, insects experience a complete metamorphosis stage, so involving larval stage, nymphous stage, and adult stage. So these are the three stages of a living insect. So we have a larval stage, we have a nymphal stage, and the adult stage. So while the amphibians experience metamorphosis from aquatic to aquatic larva to terrestrial adults. So the third or the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth term is about the immigration. So immigration here refers to the movement. Okay, so the movement of the individuals into a population or another geographic area in another location, of course. So the immigration can, like birds, yes, we can cite the example of birds in the immigration. So it can occur for various reasons, including the search of resources such as food. So when the food is not available, some species do the immigration to another location. We have also the response to environmental change. Water, we have also the destruction of shelter, um, to avoid also predators or competitors. So the individuals may immigrate into a population temporarily or permanently. So it depends on the availability of suitable habitats and the presence of variable conditions. So the immigration rate can have a significant impact on the population size and the population density and the genetic structure. So a high rate of immigration can lead to population growth and expansion, while the low rates of immigration can result in population decline or the population isolation. So the new, so let's pretend that we have a massive immigration in a site. All the new individuals that are introduced into a population may complete they may compete with the locals or the resident individuals for resource, or may serve as target for predators, so they change the dynamics of species interaction within the population or within the community. Sorry. So we have also we have also to understand the geographic distribution. So that is the geographic distribution of population and of a certain communities refers to the spatial spatial organization and range of occurrence of different species or groups of organisms. So it is important because it allows studying the biodiversity patterns, ecosystem functioning, and of course the conservation planning. Also, the ecological distribution could identify hotspots. So the hotspots of species richness and endemism assess the vulnerability of the ecosystem to environmental change. So the hotspot here means the high level of biodiversity and species richness. So in the world here we have many hotspots that are very high in biodiversity. Now we will move to the law of the minimum and limiting factors. So the the law of the minimum or the law of limiting factors. So this is a principle which was formulated by the German named Liebig. So we can call it law of the minimum, or also we can call it the Liebig law. So it is a German chemist and agronomist which lived in the 19th century. In definition, the law of the minimum, so it is also known as the Liebig law. So it states that the growth or the development of an organism is limited by the least available essential resource. So the limiting factor here, it is relative to its need. So this law emphasizes the importance of identifying and addressing the factor that is most limited for the growth, the reproduction, or the survival of a plant or a population. So, by understanding and managing the limiting factor, we can optimize the favorable condition for growth and achieve better outcomes for our plants. So the concept of the limiting factor is fundamental in ecology and environmental science. So it refers to any factor in the the environment that restricts the growth, the development, the distribution, the abundance, or even the reproductivity of an organism or a population. So, when an ecological factor is absent, decreases below a critical minimum or reaches a tolerable minimum levels. So it is referred to as the limiting factors. So this what means the limiting factors. So when the limiting factor is absent, for example, so when the limiting factor is absent, it is essential ecological factor is entirely absent from the environment. Organism reliant on the factor will be unable to survive. They also will be unable to grow or to reproduce in the environment. For example, here, a plant cannot grow without access to the sunlight, for example, because the sunlight it occur for their photosynthesis. So when it decreases now, when the factor decreases below a critical limit, so many ecological factors have minimum limits below which they become limiting. So this critical minimum represents the lowest level of the factor that is required for the organism to function optimally. So in the factor, if the factor decreases below this critical limit, it becomes limiting. In the contrary, the growth or the survival of the organism. So, for example, water availability is often a limiting factor for the plant growth. And if the soil humidity decreases below a critical level, the plant growth may also be late. So when it reaches the tolerable maximum level, so here some ecological factors have maximum levels beyond which they become detrimental to the organism. So if a factor uh, reaches or exceed this tolerable maximum level, it can become limiting by causing harm or preventing normal physiological processes. So, for example, high temperature can be a limiting factor for many species, as extreme heat yes, so the extreme heat can lead to physiological stress or even the death of the species. So here we will be talking about the concept also of the ecological variance. So the ecological variance here refers to the ability to tolerate greater or lesser variation in an ecological factor. It represents the capacity to colonize or populate a given habitat. So the conception of ecological valence refers to the ability of a species to occupy different type of habitats or tolerate a variety of environmental conditions. So, I can explain it in other words. So, it is the capacity of species to adapt to a diversity of environment. So, species with high ecological valence can survive and thrive in a wide range of habitat, while in contradiction, a species with a low ecological variance is limited to specific environmental conditions, of course. So the ecological valence is here is an important concept in the ecology because it helps us to understand how the species respond to environmental change and how they are distributed in different habitats. It also plays a role in biodiversity conservation because species with high ecological valence are often more resilient to the environmental disturbance and can play a stabilizing role in the ecosystem. So, as we can see here, we can distinguish three ecological valence or three form of ecological species. We have first stenoes species. So stenoes species are organisms that have a weak ecological tolerance range, and they are specialized to increase only in the specific environmental condition. So these species are highly adapted to particular habitat or ecological niches. They may struggle to survive or to reproduce outside of their specific condition. We can give an example of stenoes species like plants that are adapted to grow only in specific soil type or climate, like the species that are adapted to that grow only in, for example, a salty soil. So we have also certain aquatic organisms that require very specific water quality to survive. So these species may be highly abundant and successful within their narrow range of suitable habitat. So the second form is the mesoes species. Mesoes species. So these species or these organisms, they have a moderate ecological valence. So these species exhibit a moderate tolerance to a range of environmental conditions, and they can inhabit multiple types of habitat or environment. So they are not specialized as stenoes species, but are not as generalist as the area species that we are going to see next. So the mesoes species can adapt to variable conditions, but often have specific habitat preference or resource requirement. Here we have areas species, which they are organisms with a large ecological variance. So these species are capable of tolerating a wide range of environmental conditions and can thrive in a variety of habitats or environment. So they are highly adaptable and can adjust to relatively significant environmental change. So we can say that area species are often generalists, and can occupy a range of ecological niches. So here in summary, we have the the stenoes species. So they are organisms that have weak ecological tolerance valence. Mesoes species are organisms with moderate ecological variance. And area species that are organisms with a large ecological valence. So weak ecological for stenoes, moderate ecological valence for mesoes, and large ecological valence with the area species. We continue in the same topic. So here we have stenothermic species. So stenothermic species here are species that are unable to tolerate large variation or deviation in temperature, for example, including and especially within in its internal environment. Contrasting with eurythermic species, stenothermic species applies to both terrestrial, aquatic, or aerial stenobionts. So stenothermic organisms here are affected by climate warming, particularly concerning demo ecology. So these organisms can be divided into three categories. We have the cold, the temperate, and the warm stenotherms. The cold stenotherms can tolerate temperatures that are below 14 degrees, while the temperate stenotherms can tolerate temperature between 14 and 18 degrees. The warm stenotherms can tolerate temperature that are between 18 and 43 degrees. So beyond 43 degrees, an organism can no longer be considered stenothermic. It becomes an extremophile. Here in the stenothermic species, we can cite the example of this crustacea that is called Thermosbana mirabilis. So this species could not live in temperature that are less than 30 degrees. So it lives in temperature, so it lives in water, of course, and the temperature of the water have to be between 45 and 48 degrees. So we can see here that in aquatic environment, stenothermic stenothermic species tend to inhabit deeper area where the temperature remains stable in the deep water, while in eurythermal species dominate the water of surface. So to understand the other case of eurythermal species, so these organisms are capable of tolerating wide temperature variation in the environment that they live in, including within its internal place. So species that cannot withstand significant temperature fluctuations are referred to stenotherms. So such as a definition applies only in the species whose internal temperature follow an ambient temperature fluctuation. So here we can cite this example of gasteropoda, which is called hydrobia, that supports the temperature that are minus 15 degrees and plus 60 degrees. So it is extreme here. So we can summary all that we have seen about the concept of ecological valence. So we said that species capable of inhabiting very different environment exhibit a high ecological valence are called Ureus or Ureaceous. For example, here we have this plant that is called Cetera officinale. So this plant is capable of inhabiting very different environmental conditions. So we have also species that can only survive in very specific environments that have a low ecological valence. They are called stenoes. For example, this plant which called La Véronique or Veronica triphylos. So this species can only survive in a very specific environments. Finally, we have species with moderate ecological valence, so they are called mesoes. So that's all for our session today. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.